I didn't have a proper girlfriend until I was in 11th grade. I'd messed around with a few girls at middle school/high school dances and stuff and swapped numbers with a girl at a buddy's birthday party one time. But I'd never had anything serious, nothing I was emotionally invested in until then. Just after the start of 11th grade, a girl transferred to our high school from out of state. She was the cutest girl I had ever laid eyes on in my entire life. I mean, she honestly still might be. Her name was Noor. She was born in Malaysia, but moved here to Greater Boston when she was around 5 years old. She had these big, dark brown eyes that darted around whatever room she was in, just shyly observing. Past her hair was so thick, too. I don't know if this is typical of all Asian girls, but there just seemed to be so much more of it growing on her head than other girls. I can still remember how it used to sit on her shoulders, almost impossible to tame, no matter how hard she tried to do so. It had this weird kind of bounce and curl to it, too. Most Chinese, Japanese, or Korean girls tend to have super straight hair. You guys must know what I mean. But Noor's was wavy, almost God. It was so gorgeous. Her nose was super wide and flat, and she always mentioned how she didn't like it, but I just thought it was cute. Then her lips, holy hell, were so plump and pink. This gorgeous contrast between her golden brown skin and these soft rose pink peaches. Other guys in our grade used to make fun of her acne, and she did have a lot of scars from it along her cheeks. But I didn't care. I thought they were beautiful. She was imperfect, but still, I think I was smitten with her from the get-go. She was also a super nice girl, too humble, smart, funny, the works. So, it didn't take her long at all to find a little friend group she could integrate herself into. To top it all off, she was on the track team too. Usually, a person is either super athletic or super bookish, but Noor managed to be both all at once. I'll just never forget the moment one of her track friends came over to me by the lockers and asked if I was seeing anyone. She was cute, sure, but not exactly my type. All I wanted was Noor, but I had no idea how to approach her. Then, to my absolute shock, before I could even answer, the girl made it clear it wasn't her who was interested. It was the new girl, the Malaysian girl, the one on the track team with her. She asked if I knew who she was talking about, and I tried to keep my cool, but the look on my face just totally gave it away. The girl just giggled, nodded, and walked away, smiling. She was happy, but me, I can't quite describe how I was feeling, although that's not going to stop me from trying. You know that feeling when you really like someone, and it's like butterflies? Well, take that feeling and times it by like 1,000. I was so excited I felt sick, like physically sick. And I swear to God, as I tried to put the padlock back on my locker, it took me a good few tries before I managed it because I was shaking straight up, shaking from the adrenaline. So, I won't bore you with all the courtship details, but I ended up being with Noor for a while. It was a dream teenage romance, everything a guy like me could ever have wished for. And for like 18 months of our lives, I think we were both truly happy. But as the SATs approached and we each started looking at colleges, I realized I might not get the grades to be able to get my preferred major at Boston University. I mean, Harvard was pretty much out of the question for me, but not for Noor. She was pretty much on track to ace her way into the place on a partial to full arts scholarship. Not only that, but I kind of had my heart set on going to college down in Florida. There were some damn good schools down there, and that's not even covering the weather. I played a lot of soccer, and Florida is an excellent place for that, since the weather is superb and there's a sizable Latin community. So now that you know that, picture the scene. It's just another day of high school, and happy-go-lucky, me walks into school one morning, only to be pulled aside by a teacher and told I was wanted in the principal's office. Whatever, I couldn't possibly imagine, but I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. So I wasn't worried, even though maybe, looking back, I really should have been. Because the moment I walked in there, the first thing I saw was the uniformed police officer standing just next to the principal's desk. He had his shades on indoors. Who does that? But even without seeing the guy's eyes, I knew he was staring daggers at me. The principal asked me to take a seat, and in the most Chris Hansen I know you're guilty way ever, so I did. I managed to keep my cool for about 30 seconds while they spewed a bunch of vague nonsense about wishing they didn't have to talk to me like this. How it's such a shame, blah, blah, blah. I snap. Tell them I'm pretty much a legal adult, and they should just come out and tell me what the problem is. Then the cop said something that made my jaw drop. You think you're a man laying hands on a woman like that? So here's the thing. This all came to light in the week after one of Noor's friends had a conversation with her about college. She told her friend that she had her heart set on Harvard and she would not be moving down to Florida with me. She then apparently burst into tears and said something along the lines of, "Sam is going to be disappointed with me. I'm scared to tell him." The friend then somehow interpreted this as a confession that I was hitting her in private, and within about 24 hours, the entire school seemed to think I was some kind of woman beater. You should have seen the looks I got around school that day. There were guys with full-blown yellow fever that straight up wanted to kill me. I remember walking through the school parking lot towards my car at the end of the day. And as I walked past this one kid's car, he started revving the engine loudly, then let his car lurch forward before throwing on the brakes, as if to say, I could have, but I didn't. We ended up breaking up before moving away, and it was the worst thing ever. The whole battery accusation soured the whole relationship, like a slow poison. My heart was completely broken, but that wasn't even really the worst part. Some people in our little North Shore town just didn't seem to believe that I was innocent. And honestly, I don't think I'd have survived the year if I hadn't moved down to Florida for college. I know that's not your typical ghost, spooky skeleton horror story, but that crap just isn't scary compared to an accusation like that and all the fear and loathing that results from it. Here in the UK, we have something called Bonfire Night. Those of you who have seen the movie V for Vendetta will know a little about it, especially that whole remember 5th of November, gunpowder treason, and plot. We see no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgotten. Long story short, these Catholic terrorists tried to blow up Parliament, and if they'd been successful, it might have changed the course of history forever. So, every November on the 5th of the month, we make a ragdoll of the main dude in question, Guy Fawkes, then throw him on the big wood-burning fire and cheer while he burns. Only as I'm writing this out do I realize how gnarly and brutal that sounds. But yeah, you get the whole thing now. So, on with my story. Back when I was in secondary school, we used to finish at 2:30 in the afternoon. I can practically hear the gasps already, since most schools don't kick out until like 3:30 to 4:00, with some post schools even going until 5:00 p.m. But there was a damn good reason why this was the case for us. I lived in a pretty rough area of Liverpool where there were two rival schools within spitting distance of each other. The rivalry and contempt between the two were so bad that they had to stagger the home times of each school so that these huge gang fights wouldn't kick off on Mee Avenue every afternoon. Yeah, it was that bad. So, one day, a few days after bonfire night, we finished school and headed up to Allerton Golf Course to smoke ciggies and share a can of Lager one of us had pinched from our parents. So, we missed the initial rush of kids heading back home, and we're the only ones walking back home when this car full of older lads pulls up and starts shouting stuff at us. We're all a bit pissed from the few swigs of ale we had, so we get all bullshit back and start giving as good as we get. Big mistake. They tear off in their car, disappearing around a corner and out of sight. We think we're safe. And not only that, we got it into our stupid bloody heads that we'd scared them away or something. So wrong. As we're further down the road, we hear this horrible revving engine sound. Look back, and it's the same car full of lads who commence to get out and start throwing lit fireworks at us. It was properly chaotic. We're running for cover while these rockets and spirals are flying at us and spraying sparks all over the show. What happened next was legit, like something out of a film. I watch one of these rockets take off from the pavement and fly through the air like a laser-guided missile before hitting my mate Paul square in his forehead. So hard it just knocks him to the ground. Blood starts pouring out of his face, pooling on the ground beneath him. Honest to God, I thought he was dead, and so did the lads in the car. They looked almost as scared as we did, got back in their car, and sped off down the road. He wasn't dead, and we realized that fast when he started groaning and writhing on the ground. But, oh my God, the blood was thick in his eyes. We're asking him to open them, and he just can't. When the ambulance arrived, we were just in bits. Like, I thought he was going to be blind for life, that the rocket had burst his eyes or something. Fairly happy ending, though. He's fine now. Well, he's mad as a box of frogs, but he was mental before that too. He does have this little crescent moon scar right between his eyebrows, though, where the rocket hit him. Not to mention a proper little war story to tell every year around the 5th of November. So, my name is Alex, and I went to high school here in Liverpool, in the UK. Our school was a bit different than some of the others in the area, in that it offered us a chance to partake in the Combined Cadet Force, CCF. The CCF started for us once we hit 14. And you got the choice of either the Army, Navy, Air Force, or community service. Being a red-blooded male with a liking for all things military, I chose the Army. And it was honestly one of the most fun times I ever had in my entire time at school. Every Thursday, we got to dress up in camouflage clothing to go to school, including boots, berets, all that stuff. And my God, it felt cool getting into that gear and marching off to school with every other kid in the area who went to other schools thinking we were cool as hell. But it didn't come without its hazards. You see, like most high schools, there were a few bullies that made life for the rest of us pretty much unbearable. And I was no different. One kid was intent on making my life as hellish as possible, and I'd be lying if I said he didn't succeed on a few occasions. But a little side note here, I wasn't nearly as tall or as strong as this kid. However, I once got super sick of the maltreatment and decided to get a little payback. We were playing football one afternoon during PE, what we called phys ed, and me and my bully were on opposite teams. I ended up marking him, basically trying to make sure he didn't get the ball, or if he did, he wouldn't have it much longer. At one point, he gets the ball and kind of chuckles when he sees me as if to be like, "What the hell are you going to do, short stuff?" then tries to sprint past me. I just throw myself into, if I may say so myself, a near-perfect slide tackle, taking the ball out from under him and felling him like a goddamn oak tree. He smashes into the ground, the wind knocked out of him, appealing for a foul. But our teacher just tells him to get up, as it was a fair tackle, albeit a rough one. I can't even tell you how amazing that felt, to see that look on his face. But that feeling paled in comparison to the anxiety I felt when I realized he wasn't about to just let this slide. He was out to get revenge in a big, bad way, and that was something I was not looking forward to. Anyway, we ended up going on this big field trip to an army base just north of Liverpool at this place called Altcar. All the army kids are there, since there has been a lot of hype about the trip. We were due to have an actual shooting session, fieldcraft exercises, and stuff like that. But we were all excited about the paintball session they'd promised us at the end of the day. All is going well until the fieldcraft lesson. We get given these little pallets of camouflage face paint, get split up into two big teams, and then get told we'll be playing a giant version of hide and seek among this big wooded area contained in the base perimeter. All good, right? Nope. Big nope, because I'm on the hiding team first, and my bully is on the seeking team. Off we go into the woods to hide. I and a mate of mine managed to find these really thick bushes to hide in, pretty much impenetrable, and just chill there, keeping as quiet as possible. As we started to hear the seeking team looking around the woods for us, it was such a rush, hearing people wondering where we were, oblivious to the fact that we were just feet away from them. So, you can imagine our absolute disappointment when someone comes stumbling through the bushes to check if there's anyone there. Now, I know what you're thinking. It just so happened to be the bully that found us. Yes, but actually no, it was one of his mates. While my friend just legged out of the bushes to find a new hiding place, the bully's mate sees me and just pounces. These are all rugby players, so he doesn't have much trouble gripping a short AR like me and holding me in place while he starts shouting for my bully that he's found me over and over again. I struggle, I fight, but it's no good. The kid pretty much has me in a vice-like headlock, and I'm not going anywhere. Then the bully appears. Just so we're all clear on what's happening here, we're all pretty much completely alone in these woods. No one can see us, and the bully guy, who's hell-bent on revenge at this point, has me right where he wants me. I honestly thought I was going to die for a moment. He starts punching me in the stomach while his mate holds me still, and as much as I'm kicking and swearing and trying to break free, it's just no good. The punches start landing on my face soon after, and I begin to taste blood in my mouth as he lands punch after punch around my head and face. Right when I think it can't get any worse, he picks a stick up off the ground, snaps it in two so that he's made a little spear, and then starts saying how he's going to take one of my eyes out to teach me a lesson for trying to be the big man during football practice. I start doubling my efforts, kicking and screaming, and the twit holding me has to put a stinking, sweaty hand over my mouth to keep me from making too much noise. It was horrendous. Literally the worst experience of my entire childhood, watching the sharp end of that stick creeping closer and closer toward my eye. Then, out of nowhere, I hear a shout, "Leave him, you expletive," followed by a load of rustling leaves. It was one of the fellas who had been assigned to teach us fieldcraft, an actual regular army bloke who was obviously in no mood to deal with spoiled, posh kids. He throws the bully to the ground, and I feel the arm around my throat loosen and disappear as his mate turns tail and flees the scene. The bully got reprimanded for the rest of the day, wasn't allowed to do anything else, including paintball, and had to go for these horrible punishment runs. It caused a ton of commotion at school, with parents complaining about the loose discipline, even though it was supposed to be the military. But after that, he never picked on me again. Maybe getting picked on himself made him think twice about the whole bully thing. But either way, school got a lot easier to deal with after that whole incident.